What we would like to get to tonight, a little bit at least, is to start thinking of what immersion and participation mean to us as citizens, not only as artists, as educators, as museum goers, or as curators, but also as citizens. If we are talking about immersion as losing yourself completely and really being part of an artwork or a context or political action, is that what we want, and how far do we want to go? And you know, this phrase by Philip K. Dick that begins our conversation is about the fact that we don't really need too much description in order to lose ourselves or to be immersed in one's world. And actually, a book is a perfect way to lose oneself. A world made of words is enough for us to get completely lost if the world created is evocative enough. Immersion started really in history with perspective, some argue. And in this case here, you're looking at the School of Athens by Raphael that was painted in 1509, 1511, and it's at the Vatican. And the introduction of perspective in painting takes a first step by creating a sense of depth. And this sense of depth is also something that one can recognize not anymore in a descriptive way, but in an evocative way, also in books. When there's depth of information, which is a term that actually is by Jonathan Stoyer, when there's depth of information, there's an idea of immersion. This depth of information can come with words, it can come with sounds. We'll see that it can be musical. And you know, at some point, I was also arguing that certain small devices, like the Walkman at that time and now the iPod, really were about creating immersion and then expansion. This idea of existence maximum, of a space that starts with a small device but then expands way into the physical realm. Well, of course, the real holy grail for everybody is the holodeck. And you know, the holodeck is defined as a simulated reality facility located on starships and star bases. Well, we would all want it to be also in our own star bases or star homes, but well, it's a way to really think of this complete immersion. I really love this, this work by Robbie Cooper, and it's a work from 2009 that is called Immersion and captures people seen from the other side of the screen while they watch YouTube or play video games. And he uses this method called interrotron, so he can reach them directly from the other side of the screen. Take a little peek at it. It's quite wonderful, isn't it? But that's what I really like. The work that we do, immersion is participation. There's a lot going on inside of us that makes us become part of that particular world. And I go back here to the Sword of Damocles, which is considered to be one of the first VR displays, one of the first VR infrastructures that was created by scientist Ivan Sutherland and student Bob Sproul in 1968 at MIT. And it really was, computerized, so this was actually virtual reality. And it really is interesting because virtual reality has not changed that much. I mean, it's lighter, you know, but it's not as much better than it was at that time. The technology is still there, and it's still very much present, which is interesting. Google Glass, as a matter of fact, still relies on pretty rudimentary and sometimes crude needs and commands.
Okay, Glass. Google Baltimore Orioles.
The Orioles beat the Angels 8-4. They are playing the Royals today at 7:05 p.m.
Okay, Glass. Take a picture.
That's a sort of a sword of Damocles, right? To have to go around and say, okay, Glass, and give all the instructions. So we're not there yet, you know. And one of the holy grails, as we all know, of engineers, designers, programmers, everybody, is to make the technology disappear. Actually, the immersive fallacy is based on the same theory of the uncanny valley in robotics. It's if you give too much information and you try to mimic a world that is too detailed, you actually obtain the opposite effect. You go too far and people are going to be put off and not really immerse themselves in that experience. But participation definitely is something that we cannot do without today. We're in an era of pan-communication, and as museums, as citizens, as policymakers, as students, we want to participate. And this beautiful quote says it out loud. The notion of looking on at life has always been hateful to me. What am I if I am not a participant? In order to be, I must participate. I will never forget in 1998 this Maurizio Cattelan project. It was the idea of transforming Picasso into a Carnevale mask. His actors stayed in the lobby of MoMA for 3 months greeting people coming in. And it was just, funny, but at the same time poignant. It was his home, and he was like greeting you there. It was right. Of course, we know very well, as another example, Marina Abramovic. What is that if not participation with immersion? You can lose yourself in that experience so much so that you can stay there for hours. And it's also very interesting to see what happens when only one person is allowed to immerse and participate and the others have to wait in line. It's interesting to see also when the participation is not collective, what the consequences are. And right now, total immersion for real, you have the rain room that is just outside. But tonight, to talk about it, we have 4 really exceptional people. Lance Weiler is a storyteller, a filmmaker. Next to him, top right, is Frank Rose. Frank Rose, he of the great volume, The Art of Immersion. To the bottom right is Aina Abidon. She founded StoryCode, which is a great global organization for cross-platform narration, and it's open source. And last but not least is our own Deborah House, Director of Digital Learning. So it's great to have her here. And without any further ado, I'm going to give the word to Frank Rose, who is our first speaker. Frank.
Thank you.